AITA for ruining my ex-husband's wife's life after she tried to get my security clearance revoked 10 years after they cheated? I never imagined I'd be sharing a story like this. My hands are trembling as I recount these events, a mix of adrenaline and a deep-seated rage I thought I'd buried a decade ago. I'm a 53-year-old woman who has spent the last 10 years painstakingly rebuilding a life that was utterly destroyed by two people: my ex-husband, Gary, now 55, and his current wife, Melissa, who's 42. To grasp why I've taken the actions I have, you need the full backstory. 10 years ago, I was a senior project manager at a mid-sized logistics firm. Gary worked in sales. We'd been married for 15 years, had 2 children, then 14 and 12, and I genuinely believed we were happy. Then came Melissa, a new hire in HR. At 32, she was bubbly, seemingly helpless, and quickly latched onto Gary for what she called mentorship. It's the oldest cliché in the book, isn't it? But this wasn't just a simple affair. Melissa didn't just want Gary, she wanted my job, my home, my entire life. She orchestrated an anonymous complaint against me at work, accusing me of creating a hostile environment and embezzling petty cash. It was ridiculous and completely false. But with Gary gaslighting me at home, telling me I was paranoid, overworked, or just plain crazy, I broke. I had a public breakdown at the office. And just like that, I was fired. 2 weeks later, Gary filed for divorce. He moved in with Melissa. Because I was deemed unstable and unemployed, he got the house. He got primary custody of our kids. I was left in a tiny studio apartment, working retail, while they played happy family in the home I'd decorated, with the children I'd raised. I lost everything. It took me 5 grueling years to claw my way back. I returned to school, sought therapy, and slowly rebuilt my relationship with my kids, who are now adults. My son is 24, and my daughter is 22, and they see the truth of what happened. Eventually, I landed a government contract role that pays well and, more importantly, requires a high-level security clearance. And that's where the real trouble began. Last week, I was up for a renewal and an upgrade to my clearance level for a massive, life-changing project. My investigator called me in for an urgent interview. I sat in a stark, gray room as a man slid a printed email across the table. The subject line read, "Character flaws and financial instability regarding my name." The email claimed I was a closet alcoholic, drowning in hidden debt, and had violent tendencies toward my ex-husband's new family. It was packed with specific details only someone close to me would know, but twisted into vicious lies. "Do you know A.M. Reynolds?" the investigator asked. "Melissa Reynolds." She didn't even bother using a fake name. She used her maiden name, tied to her so-called consulting business. She tried to destroy my career. Again. 10 years later. Despite the fact that I have zero contact with them outside of weddings and graduations. I explained everything to the investigator. I provided my credit reports, my spotless record, and proof of my clean criminal history. He seemed sympathetic, and frankly, the email was so unhinged that it reflected worse on her than on me. But the investigation is now paused. My promotion is on hold. I went home and cried for 3 hours. Then, I stopped crying. I keep a box in my closet. I call it the in case of emergency box. During the divorce, I found things. Gary was sloppy. Melissa was arrogant. I have copies of emails between them conspiring to get me fired. I have bank statements showing Gary funneled marital funds to her account before the divorce was even filed. I have proof that Melissa, who claims to have a master's degree, forged her transcripts to land the HR job, the very job she used to orchestrate my firing. I never used this evidence. I didn't want to drag my kids through a messy battle. I craved peace. But now, she's tried to take the food off my table again. So, I'm not just going to report her to the school board, she's on the PTA executive board now. I'm not just going to show Gary the emails where she mocks his bedroom performance to her friends. Yes, I have those too. I'm going nuclear. I hired a private investigator yesterday to verify if the degree information is still actionable. I'm drafting a letter to the dean of the university she claims to have graduated from. And I'm meeting with a forensic accountant because I know Gary's consulting firm plays fast and loose with tax laws. Am I the asshole for deciding to blow up their entire lives over one email? My best friend says I should focus on my clearance and let karma handle her, but I feel like I am the karma. Update 1. It's been 12 days since my original post. I've read all your comments. To those saying, move on, success is the best revenge your kind, but you're mistaken. Success has only made me a bigger target. To those saying, burn it down, grab some popcorn. I haven't submitted anything yet. I wanted to be certain. I wanted to be precise. My private investigator, whom I'll call Saul, is worth every penny of the steep fee I paid. I met him at a diner 3 towns over. He handed me a folder and said, "You were right about the degree, but you were wrong about the husband." My stomach sank. I thought he meant Gary was innocent. "No," Saul clarified, sipping his coffee. "I mean Gary isn't just loose with taxes. He's drowning. They have 3 mortgages on the house you paid the down payment on. And Melissa? She's not just a consultant. She's been running a side hustle, selling high-end knockoff purses and jewelry as authentic to the other suburban moms." I sat there, staring at the photos. Proof of fake receipts. Alibaba orders. And then, the list of their debts. They're leveraged to the hilt, desperate to maintain the image of a wealthy couple. They drive leased luxury cars they can't afford. But the degree. That's the cherry on top. Saul confirmed she never graduated. She attended for 2 years, failed out, and bought a diploma mill certificate. She used that fake credential to secure her current job as an HR director at a tech startup, a startup preparing for an IPO. If they discover their HR director, the woman tasked with vetting employees, is a fraud, she's finished. No severance. Possible legal action for fraud, depending on the contracts she signed. I drove home, a mix of nausea and exhilaration churning in my gut. Then, my phone rang. It was my son, Leo, 24 years old. "Mom," he sounded exhausted. "Dad wants us all to come to dinner on Sunday. He says it's a family announcement. Melissa is cooking." "I'm not invited, Leo," I said gently. "Actually, that's the weird part. She told me to ask you. She said she wants to bury the hatchet for the sake of the future grandbabies." I nearly drove off the road. Grandbabies? Leo isn't even engaged. My daughter, Mia, 22, is single. "Leo, is there something you're not telling me?" "No. That's just how she talks." "Look, please come." Dad sounded desperate. He said he really needs the whole family together. "If you don't come, she'll just spend the whole night trash talking you to us, and I can't deal with it." I glanced at the folder on my passenger seat. The nuclear folder had just grown heavier. "I'll be there," I said. I realized why she sent that email to my job. They're broke. They need money. If I lose my job, I can't help the kids, and maybe, just maybe, they think they can guilt me into helping them if they break me down first. Or perhaps she just wanted to kick me while they're spiraling downward. "I'm going to the dinner. I'm bringing a bottle of wine. And I'm bringing the folder. But I'm not opening it. Not yet. I need to see the fear in their eyes first." Update 2. The dinner was a masterpiece of tension. I wore a dress I knew looked stunning, one I bought with my security clearance money. I styled my hair. I looked like $1,000,000. When I walked into my old house, the familiar scent hit me. It still smelled like the potpourri I used to buy. But the furniture was different, gaudy, overpriced, beige. Melissa answered the door. She looked worn down. She's 10 years younger than me, but the stress of living a lie is clearly taking its toll. She forced a smile. "Up. You made it. I wasn't sure you'd fit us into your schedule." "I always make time for family," I replied with a smile, handing her a bottle of cheap wine I'd relabeled with a fancy sticker. "Petty, I know." Gary looked awful. Sweaty, red-faced, hands trembling. He hugged me a little too long. "You look great," he whispered. "You look really stable." Stable. That word. He used to call me unstable to justify his cheating. We sat down. Leo and Mia were tense, their eyes darting between us. Melissa served a roast that was dry as dust. Then came the announcement. Gary cleared his throat. "So, Melissa and I have been talking. We're thinking of downsizing. The market is hot." "It's not. Not in our area. And with 3 mortgages, they have no equity." "And we were thinking," Melissa cut in, placing her hand over Gary's, "since the kids are starting their own lives. Maybe it's time we all pooled resources, for generational wealth." I slowly set my fork down. "Pooled resources?" "Well," Melissa said with a shark-like grin, "Gary tells me you're doing very well with the government contracts. And we have the business acumen. We were thinking of starting a family trust. We manage it, you contribute, the kids benefit." I stared at her. The audacity was staggering. She tries to get me fired on Tuesday, and by Sunday, she's asking for my money. She assumes I don't know about the email. She thinks I'm the same doormat I was 10 years ago. That's an interesting idea, I said, my voice calm and steady. But I'm a bit confused. Why would I need management? My finances are immaculate. My background check for the clearance just confirmed that. Though. The investigator did mention some odd emails. The room fell silent. The only sound was Leo chewing a carrot, obnoxiously loud. Melissa's eyes flickered. Oh? Bureaucracy is always messy. It is, I agreed. They found a tip. From A.M. Reynolds. Claiming I was an alcoholic and violent. Gary dropped his fork. It clattered against the china. He looked at Melissa. What? I don't know what she's talking about, Melissa said quickly, her voice rising. Probably a spam bot. Identity theft is huge right now. That's what I thought, I said, sipping my water. So I hired a private investigator to clear my name. You know, to trace the IP address. And while he was digging, he found so much interesting stuff. I reached into my bag. I didn't pull out the folder. Instead, I pulled out just one piece of paper, a printout from a handbag forum where users identified her authentic Hermes bags as fakes. I slid it to Mia. Honey, didn't you say you wanted to borrow Melissa's Birkin for your graduation? You might want to check this. Mia glanced at the paper. Wait. Seller strictly _Lux scammer alert? Melissa snatched the paper. This is ridiculous. This is internet bullying. Gary, I turned to my ex-husband, did you know Melissa never finished her master's? Or her bachelor's? Gary looked like he was having a stroke. What? It's a lie. Melissa shrieked. She stood up and slammed her hands on the table. Get out of my house. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous. Sit down, Melissa, Gary snapped. It was the first time I'd heard him raise his voice at her. He looked at me, eyes wide. What do you mean she didn't finish? I mean she bought a diploma online, Gary. The same way she buys those fake bags. And if her company finds out, she's liable for fraud. And since you signed the mortgage documents based on her income, isn't that bank fraud too? Gary turned pale gray. I'm leaving, I said, standing up. Leo, Mia, you're welcome to come with me. We can get pizza. You bitch. Melissa lunged across the table, literally lunged, knocking over the wine. Red wine spilled all over her beige carpet. My son stood up and blocked her. Don't touch my mom. I walked to the door. I turned back one last time. Oh, and Melissa? I forwarded the email you sent the investigator to your boss. I figured since you're so concerned with character flaws, he should know about yours. I sent it this morning. I didn't send it. That was a lie. I wanted to see her reaction. She screamed, a primal, terrified scream. I walked out with my kids. We got pizza. For an hour, we didn't talk about them. We just ate pepperoni and laughed. But here's where it gets messy. Gary called me at 2 a.m. He was crying. He said he went through her office after she locked herself in the bedroom. He found past due notices. He found credit cards in his name he didn't know about. Help me, he begged. Please, op. I'll lose the house. I'll lose the business. She ruined me. You ruined yourself, Gary, I said. Please. Just don't send the info to her job. If she loses that income, I go to jail for the tax stuff. I used her projected bonuses to leverage the business loans. I hung up. Now I'm sitting here. I have the button ready. I've drafted the email to her HR department, ironic, isn't it? And the CEO. If I send it, she gets fired. Gary probably goes bankrupt. He might face criminal charges for tax fraud if an audit happens. My kids. They'll be hurt if their dad goes to jail. Leo is sensitive. Mia is tough, but he's still her dad. But if I don't send it? She gets away with it. She keeps her job. They keep scamming people. And she'll come for me again. I'm staring at the screen. My mouse hovers over send. Update 3. I didn't press send on the email to her boss. Not yet. Instead, I did something far more damaging. I forwarded the M. Reynolds email to the head of security at my agency, along with the IP tracing report my PI provided, which confirmed it came from her home network. I framed it as, I am concerned about a potential security breach regarding a malicious actor attempting to manipulate federal clearance procedures. You see, lying to a federal investigator or trying to sabotage a federal clearance process isn't just mean. It's a felony. 18 U.S. Code Section 1001. I decided I don't need to get her fired. I'll let the government do it for me. 3 days after the dinner, things at the happy house imploded. Mia told me Melissa has been staying at a hotel. Gary is trying to liquidate assets. He put the boat, bought with our joint savings right before the divorce, up for sale. Then, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. Is this my name? A woman's voice, ice cold. Yes. This is Diane, last name, CEO of Melissa's company. We need to talk. My heart pounded. I hadn't sent the email. How did she know? I received a very interesting automated notification from LinkedIn, Diane said. It seems you viewed my profile. I viewed yours. I saw you work in federal contracting. We are currently vetting a government contract of our own. Okay. I replied, cautious. Your ex-husband's wife works for me. She has been agitated lately. She was caught trying to access your personnel file through a backdoor background check system we use for candidates. She used company resources to dig up dirt on you. Again. My jaw dropped. Melissa isn't just evil, she's stupid. She tried to use her corporate account to hack or search me after our confrontation. I fired her 10 minutes ago for misuse of company data, Diane continued. But then she started screaming about how you're a fraud and you're ruining her life. She made quite a scene. Security escorted her out. In her office, we found discrepancies. The degree? I asked. Among other things. We are auditing her entire department. I'm calling you as a courtesy because she made a threat against your physical safety on her way out. You might want to get a restraining order. I thanked her and hung up. Melissa got herself fired. I didn't even have to pull the trigger. But then came a knock on my door. It was Gary. Rain poured down, because the universe loves dramatic irony, and he stood on my porch, soaked. He looked 20 years older. She's gone, he said. She cleared the joint account and left. She took the car. I'm sorry, Gary, I said, not opening the screen door. I need money, up. I need $50,000 to cover the payroll taxes, or the IRS seizes the business next week. She spent it. She spent the tax money on God knows what. Bags. Pills. I don't know. He looked at me with those eyes, the eyes I once loved. For the kid's sake. Please. I'll pay you back. I looked at him. I remembered the studio apartment. I remembered eating instant noodles so the kids could have new shoes. I remembered him laughing when I asked for more child support. I can't help you, Gary, I said. You have the money. I know you do, he shouted, slamming his hand on the screen. You owe me. I supported you for 15 years. And you destroyed me in 15 days, I whispered. Get off my porch, or I'm calling the police. He left. But here's the twist I didn't see coming. My daughter Mia came over last night. She was quiet, sitting on my couch, hugging a pillow. Mom, she said, Dad asked me to take out a loan in my name. To help the business. You said no, right? I said I'd think about it. He's my dad, Mom. He's crying. He said he'd sign over the house to me. The house is underwater, Mia. It's debt. He's trying to transfer his debt to you. I know. She started crying. But he said if I don't help, he's going to kill himself. The room spun. That manipulation. That's pure Gary. Weaponizing his failure. I stood up. The rage I felt before was a mere candle compared to the forest fire burning in me now. He's trying to drag our children down with him. Mia, I said, grabbing my keys. Get in the car. Where are we going? We're going to the police station. And then to a lawyer. I'm not just ruining his reputation anymore. I'm burying him. I still have the folder, the tax fraud proof, the evidence that he knew about Melissa's embezzlement and benefited from it. I drove to the station, Mia sobbing in the passenger seat. I approached the desk sergeant. I need to report a financial crime involving the coercion of a minor. Well, a young adult, I corrected myself. And I have evidence of tax evasion and grand larceny. I handed over the folder. The whole folder. As I filled out the statement, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Review the footage from your doorbell camera. I opened the app on my phone. The video from 20 minutes ago showed a figure in a hoodie walking up to my porch. They poured something on my flower beds, gasoline, maybe? And threw a lit match. But it had been raining so hard, the match went out. The figure stomped in frustration and ran off. It was Melissa. I showed the video to the sergeant. Well, he said, pulling out his radio, that's attempted arson. Update 4. This has turned into a nightmare I can't wake up from. It's been 48 hours since I went to the police. Melissa was arrested at a Motel 6 3 towns over. She had a bag full of cash, a fake ID, and my son's social security card. Wait, let me back up. After the arson attempt, the police issued a warrant. They found her quickly because she turned her phone on to send me that taunting text. Genius move. But when they searched her go bag, they found a file. She had been opening credit cards in Leo's name for 2 years. My son, the sweet, quiet artist who trusts everyone. She racked up $40,000 in debt under his name. He didn't know because she set the billing address to a P.O. box she controlled. Leo is devastated. He's in shock. He keeps saying, "But she made me pancakes. She helped me with my college applications." Gary is in the wind. When the police went to his house to question him about the tax fraud, which I graciously provided proof of, the house was empty. His car was gone. He left his phone on the kitchen counter. He abandoned the kids. He abandoned the mess. He ran. I'm currently sitting in my living room with both my adult children. We've camped out here like it's a bunker. A security system installer is drilling holes in the walls as I speak. I feel guilty. If I hadn't poked the bear. If I hadn't hired the pie. Maybe they would have just continued their slow decline, and my kids wouldn't be facing this trauma. Leo's credit is ruined. Mia is traumatized by her father's suicide threats and subsequent abandonment. But then I look at the police report. The arson. The identity theft. She would have done this anyway. Eventually, their house of cards would have collapsed. I just sped up the demolition. My lawyer called an hour ago. Gary didn't run far, she said. He was picked up at the Canadian border. He tried to cross with a passport that expired 6 months ago. He's in custody. So, both of them are in jail. My ex-husband and his wife. I have to go bail out. Nobody. I'm not bailing out anyone. But here's the cliffhanger, the thing that makes my blood run cold. While Gary was being processed, he told the officers that I was the mastermind. He claims I set up the tax fraud years ago before the divorce, and he was just following my instructions all this time. He claims the emails I have are forged by me. He's doubling down. And because I'm a government contractor with a high-level clearance, an accusation of masterminding tax fraud triggers an automatic suspension of my clearance pending investigation. My boss just called. I'm sorry. You're on administrative leave effective immediately. Surrender your badge. He's trying to take me down with him from inside a jail cell. I'm looking at my kids. I'm looking at my badge on the table. I have one card left to play. It's a recording, a voice memo I took on my phone 10 years ago, the night he confessed to the affair. In it, he admits to everything his shady business deals, how he planned to hide assets from me, how he and Melissa were going to screw the system. It's illegal in my state to record someone without consent. If I submit this to clear my name, I admit to a crime. If I don't, I might lose my career and face a federal investigation based on his lies. I have to decide by morning. I'm pouring a drink. It's going to be a long night. Hi there, if you made it so far. Consider dropping a like and maybe subscribing. Thanks. And have a nice one.